Welcome back to Watching the Throne on the Late Night Chat Network, episode 10. All right, welcome back, everybody. And we're talking about Game of Thrones Season 1, Episode 10, the season finale, titled Fire and Blood. And where we left off last episode was a pretty fucking crazy moment, so much so that JT ran off to watch it directly following the last recording for Episode 9 that we talked about with, whether or not Ned, his head got cut off.
Yikes.
Ned is dead, baby. Ned is dead. Ned Stark, the most honest, noblest man on the show is of course dead. Because
Why does it always happen to the nice guy?
I don't know, someone can't like that can't survive in this world, right? I think his death will go a long way in that sense, though, as we move forward. So
I'd like to believe so.
yeah, it's funny, guys, because after Jay confirmed that he had died following the ending of last episode, because he wasn't certain, maybe he thought they were trying to fuck with us or something. He said the same thing that I said to myself, was like, I don't even know if I want to continue watching the show now that this guy's dead, because that is truly how I felt at the end of season 1. I was like, well, if this show comes back, because I had caught up at that point, and I think season 2 was going to be coming out soon after I had finished watching it, because I had watched it during the period it was off the air, from season 1 to 2. Yeah. And I literally said that to myself. I was like, I don't know if I want to continue watching this show without Ned, because I was such a fan of that character. And then you go into it, like most of these shows, thinking that he's the main protagonist, like he's the character you're going to follow throughout the series, right? Mm-hmm. And it's going to be about him, going up against these people, right? But yet, here he is dead at the end of the 9th episode, not even the season finale, mind you. It was a pretty fucking crazy move, man, the first time I saw it. What'd you think?
Well, yeah, I'm in the same boat. I don't know if I even want to continue watching this. I'd rather go back to The Wire now, I think. It's gotten to that point. But there's something that at the end of this episode, I guess because I know this prequel to the Game of Thrones now, I kind of want to, it's kind of got me holding on and just hoping that it's going to turn out to be what I expect it to be, I guess. And it's not like when you watched it, okay, you waited to the end of the season, let's say, to watch the whole first season.
Yeah.
And that must have been hard because you had people talking probably all over social media or whatever it was. I mean, the social media probably wasn't as crazy as now, but there was always that talk, right?
Sure, but I didn't have anything spoiled for me.
No, you got lucky.
No, I also think, like myself, not everybody jumped on right from the start of this show. I think mouth got around, especially after this season wrapped up, for that matter. And then I think a lot of people ended up kind of getting into it after the first season, like myself. Like, I don't think I'm alone in that regard, because this was if you weren't a fan of the novels already prior to this coming out, you may not even know what this is, right? And then fantasy sometimes is a hard sell for some people, myself included. You know what I mean? So, like, to me, when I first started watching this, I'm like, oh, this is like Lord of the Rings or something like that. Like, that's what I really kind of thought. And then it was much more than that. It was just something really much different than Lord of the Rings in that sense. And it was very hardcore and adult because it was on HBO. So it was like, it wasn't like the films that I had seen of Lord of the Rings, which I wasn't that much of a fan of.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't even finished the books. I think I read the first one. I was much more a fan of The Hobbit, which is also set in the same world. But that was a book I really enjoyed. But anyways, yeah, Game of Thrones, man. It was, it's from here on in. I was in though. I mean, like I said, I the second season, if anything, solidified it for me. So that's why I'm like, stick with it. There's still so many great things up ahead of, coming up now.
That's
Uh,
that's what I've been told.
yeah,
Nobody's giving me secrets or anything of what's happened, but I've been told, right, that
yeah. Well,
just to keep watching.
yep. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was a big shift, and then with Ned being dead, I kind of had hinted at it prior to this episode with you saying that like the second season, the show kind of goes off in a whole different direction in the sense that all the Starks are now separated, and we kind of start following them all on their own separate journey. So like the Starks are still the main focus of the show in that sense,
Mhm.
but you also are seeing, and you're also seeing some of the stories of different other characters, as well as the Starks. But like the Starks all get separated at the end of this first season, as we're going to get into here, and then it kind of goes from there. So then you kind of, you start seeing John's story, and then you start seeing Rob's story, and you start seeing Sansa's story, and they're all kind of strategically placed around this world. So like the directions that they kind of go off in, you get to explore and meet so many different characters along the way. So like I really do like the way it kind of, the direction that the show goes as a result of the fallout of not only Ned's death, but even like this whole impending war, and all the different players that are involved in that, and again the whole thing with the them trying to, hence the Game of Thrones name, like everyone trying to feel that they should be the king, and who's rightful heir to the throne and everything else, right? And it kind of spirals out from there. And let's not forget, you also got another story brewing over at the wall of Castle Black with whatever these White Walker things were, right? So like you don't even have one threat in the show that you need to kind of focus on as you move forward. Like there's a few things in play right here that's established by the end of this season, right? So like you really just gotta be patient and see things unfold from here on out, Jay, because there's going to be a lot of other people that you meet, a lot of different characters, even other houses really that we haven't really explored, and other lords and other people for that matter that you haven't even touched on. Like that's why like the spin-off show, the House of the Dragon, is kind of less more focused really just on those two families in that season, is the which Targaryen and Valerians, which you haven't even fucking seen in this show yet, right? So it's good in that sense, like you're able to focus on those, and maybe they were less represented in this show. At least the Valerians were, I would say. The Targaryens, obviously, with Khaleesi there, she is a big part of the show moving forward. But there isn't really many Targaryens left at all, right? So,
Right. Yeah.
or any at this point that we're aware of, anyways, right? So maybe that guy who said he was possibly a Targaryen that was in Castle Black, but who the fuck, what I mean? That's like a bloodline that people said that there was no fucking dragons anymore, right? So like they're a bloodline that people don't even feel there's a threat anymore, other than the fact that she feels she's the rightful heir, and she had all the those barbarians there, the fucking Dothraki
Yeah.
leading the way, right? But now, we'll get into it here. So let's get into what happened in this show. But like, yeah, man, that's what I mean. So there's a lot of interesting things still to look forward to coming out of season one. Absolutely. I think the start of season two is a little slow. But I think like they're really just kind of rearranging the pieces, and you're trying to see where everybody is at this time, right? Moment in time, post season one, right? Because a
Yeah.
lot happened. A lot happened in season one, right? So I think that's it's more interesting things to come. So
Yeah. So there is this so far. There's been a lot to take in. So let's see where it goes from here. But it just that's the start of it. Just solidified the the hate that I find, well, kind of, that I noticed that you had for that
Joffrey.
King Joffrey there over there. I don't even want to call him a king
Well,
because
I mean, he's not. He's not. He's not technically, but yes, he's the one sitting on the throne right now. So he's not, maybe not the rightful king, or the or heir to the throne, but he is who is king currently in the show, right? But yeah, he's a piece of shit. Believe me, I hate him. I hate this fucking kid, right? So I mean, so yeah, the episode opens up with us, back in the square after Ned gets his head cut off. That's obviously an order given by Joffrey there.
Yeah.
And a man grabs Arya that was trying to, divert her attention from the crowd there of him getting his head cut off, and kind of grabs her. And then, he starts calling her a boy and things like this in the crowd, and grabs her and takes her aside and proceeds to, cut her hair, and saying that they're headed north.
Yeah.
They're getting the fuck out of there. He's kind of, I guess, taking her with him as a result of what went down. We're not really so sure about, his motivation maybe at this point.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm trying to figure out who he was. If I seen him, if I seen him did I see him in the beginning of the episode? I kind of feel like I did,
I
but
believe we've seen him prior to this because he makes reference to it, but I actually couldn't remember him either, to be fair, Jay. So I think that we had probably seen him at some point in the season, but I think they purposely though are also unclear as to what exactly he's doing. Obviously, he's trying to disguise her and get her the fuck out of there, and as a result, helping her. But whether or not we understand what he's really kind of like doing with her as of yet at this point in time.
I feel like I feel like one of the right now. This is my guess, and because I haven't seen it, and I don't I don't look up at anything about this show. I just look at what we talk. I mean, I just talk about what we talk about now and what episode we watch. But for some reason, I have a feeling one of the fucking Baelish or fucking the one
Varys.
with the no balls. Yeah,
Varys, yeah,
yeah.
Lord
Huh?
Lord
Or Varys.
Varys.
Yeah. Well, I feel like one of them has something to do with it somewhere down the line. So I don't know, just because they're snaky kind of guys, right? They've been snaky kind of guys so
Sure.
far,
Yeah.
right? So you don't know which hand they're playing, and
Well,
they're always making
you never
themselves
know what
safe.
their who their allegiances are for, or whether why they're doing what they're doing, or that's the thing. That's what makes them interesting characters. You don't know
Yeah.
why they do what they do half the time, right? It's really,
But that's just my guess. Like, I mean, I don't know. I haven't actually seen it, so I don't know. But I mean, it's just an observation of some sort that I have so far from one season. So
Yeah, but it seems like the transformation of making her look like a boy and everything else here is what the move is. And then he says that they're heading north, and he's basically getting her the fuck out of King's Landing, right? She's on the lam now.
yeah,
She's on, right? So because yeah, nothing good was going to come of whatever was going to happen there next after they killed his father, because they are alone now in King's Landing. Their father was found of treason, guilty of treason by his own admission, and yeah, so they have no, and not only that, we now know that Rob at the end of last episode they've captured Jamie, so they're in a fucking King's Landing where
yeah.
the Lannisters are ruling currently, and you know what I mean. So they're not in a good spot, these people right now, and Sansa is literally on stage with them, so you know that she has no chance, that Sansa at this point.
She's
So Arya,
screwed. Man. Poor
yeah,
girl.
Arya, she gets the fuck out of there, right? So
Poor girl, unless she gets worse, right? I feel bad for her right now, but I don't know what her character is gonna change. Like, man, she can become a bitch. Who knows, man?
yeah, so but yeah, so anyways, then we cut over to Bran. He has another what seems to us to be a dream of a three-eyed raven again, and it told him to come with him, and led him to the crypts where his father was. And then, at this point, it kind of seems like they're trying to portray the fact that he can possibly see the future, I guess. Like, he sees visions, essentially. He doesn't call them dreams. He thinks of them as otherwise. Like he says, like they basically, like from he wakes up, and he goes down to the crypts, and then they get startled by Rickon Stark, which is the Stark that's kind of forgotten at this point. You forget about
Yeah,
this being there, because Rickon is actually Benjen's. I had to look this up. I had to look up the Stark family tree. That's actually Benjen's son, the one who was missing now currently over as in Castle Black. So Ned was taking care of Rickon, right? So so it is their son essentially, but it's technically Benjen's son. And Rickon, we haven't really fucking seen this kid, I feel like, forever, right? Made reference to, and he shows up with a dog there in the crypts of Winterfell, saying that he saw his father in there while he was sleeping the night before.
Yeah.
Then then when they get out of there, they're alerted to the news of his father's death. They didn't know this up till now, so
Yeah,
it
they
kind
got
of gives you,
handed something.
yeah, so it kind of gives you the idea that,
Well, he
like,
was kind of awoken to the thing of his father's sort of death, right? It was like sort of a dream of his father dying, and he was awoken by the dog. Was it by the wolf, or was it by the
right, but
wolf?
I mean, at this point, and I'm not saying this was what it is, but I mean, if I had to take this scene for what it is, I mean, the whole thing with the three-eyed raven, there's definitely some like symbolism, I think, sort of in play at play right now. Like, if anything, he's predicting, I think, or having visions of moments, really, and something that actually rang true, like, was his father's death, right? He has a vision of going down to the crypts and his father's there, and the other son literally said he just saw him in his sleep, and that's why he went down there. So I don't
Both
know. I
ended
don't
up in the
know,
same spot. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
right? And then they go out, they get out of the crypts, and the guy in Winterfell alerts them to the fact that his father's dead, right? He didn't know that
Yeah,
at that point. So then Catelyn Stark, she's kind of, you have a scene with her dealing with the news, kind of
she had a
walking.
moment, eh?
What's that?
She had her moment, eh? She finally had to break down, eh?
Yeah, she
It's
kind
been
of,
tough.
she's walking past a bunch of people and she's got a stern look on her face, but she's not breaking. And then
No,
she feels like she's alone for a moment in the woods there, and
yeah,
she starts fucking crying about the fact that he's dead, because now the news is
it's
kind of being
confirmed.
delivered all over. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been about 3 weeks since the last episode. No.
Well, I mean, time has passed for sure, because it takes a
Yeah,
while to get these messages around, right?
you
So
got to remember that. Yeah,
so she kind of gets emotional in private, and Rob does it his way, and he's hacking the shit out of a tree in anger with his sword out there, and she's kind of like, you ruined your sword, Rob, and he's just fucking furiously hacking away, because he's pissed about the
he's
fact that his
pissed. Yeah,
father,
he's just venting, man. He needs to vent. I can understand that, you know. But
yeah,
he's just gotten the news that his old man his head's been cut off, and he wants to kill everybody, man. He's ready to go.
I think you're seeing a lot of rage in this character though right now, Rob. I think there's
I'm
a,
starting to see. Well, I mean, look, I mean, given all that's happened just now, I mean, I would be a little bit angry too, you know.
of course, I just think that you've seen his character so far go through a lot of challenges this season, not only trying to have to fill his father's shoes in place of him during this war effort, and then actually becoming successful despite the fact that he's young, and you know what I mean, and obviously he has a lot of anger in him, right? But they end up pulling it off. Yeah, but yeah, he clearly, this is not going to help the situation, in the sense that he's emotionally driven as well by the fact that so much by his father, and this is a big blow to them, both of them,
Oh, for
obviously,
sure.
family. Um, and then we cut over there back to King's Landing,
This is the best.
and
Like,
then he's kind of like a jester. He sings funny songs for Joffrey's entertainment there,
oh my
which
god,
he
yeah.
doesn't take too kindly to.
Well, he clapped in the beginning. He made it look like he enjoyed it. I mean, the song was making fun of his old man, like, well, his supposedly old man, right? Like,
Yeah.
but I mean, I thought it was kind of cool and entertaining. Maybe a little too soon, but who knows, right?
Yeah, and so then in response to that, he's like, "Oh yeah, that was lovely. Cut this man's tongue off." And he's like, "Well, I'm done for the
He
day."
asks them first, hey, what do you want more? Your
Yeah,
tongue or your hands, right?
yeah, yeah. So he's like,
So
"I can't do it without my hands or whatever. I can't do it."
he
Yeah,
reminds me of a spoiled little rich kid, like one of those fucking entitled kids.
that's what he
That
is. He has power now. He was, we saw this already earlier, Jay, when
Yeah, but I mean,
he got
I don't
tossed
even know
down.
him in anything else.
Yeah.
Is this like an only character he's ever played in
I've
his
never seen this
career?
kid again after this show. He was so universally hated on this fucking show. I don't think he's ever, like, I'm sure he's acted somewhere, but maybe he changed his whole look, because this kid is the worst. The worst. You don't remember how many people hated Skylar on Breaking Bad? You remember how much of a hated character she was, Skylar, on Breaking Bad?
Yeah, yeah.
This is worse. This is, I mean, like, that was I think they're up there in terms of like characters that people hate, like, neck and neck. But
Because I'm wondering.
I would pick Joffrey any day of the week. She was a horrible Skylar at times, but I would pick Joffrey any day of the week.
I'm just wondering, like, well, this guy must have got so. Like, if I'm seeing this now, and this is only the beginning of this guy ruling, then then this guy
Ah,
must have got death threats and shit to his fucking door. People wouldn't have liked him that much.
yeah,
Everybody that I've mentioned that name to, and I said this is, I think I'm starting to realize why people don't like. Everybody that I've said that to that has watched the show has said you're gonna hate him even more. And I'm going,
yeah.
that's all they said. You're gonna hate him even more.
This is nothing. This is nothing.
He's only a kid right now.
Yeah, this is nothing. He's horrible. Um, but yeah, so he cuts his, they cut his tongue off. He kind of says he's done for the day, and starts walking off. And you kind of hear this going on in the background, and then he tells his mother to take over essentially, and then demands the presence of Sansa, who's
Yeah.
literally just now part of the fold. Like she's just like captured essentially by this family, and she just has to stand around and look pretty. And yeah, then he proceeds to take her. This is even worse. He proceeds to take her there away from them, and where her father's head is on a stick, and forces her to fucking look at him on with his head on the stick. Like she has to see her decapitated. She starts crying, and he's like, no, 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 look at her. He's like, look at him, look at him. I'm forcing you to look at him. Like, your king demands it. So she ends up fucking looking at him, and then she throws like an idle threat about how the fucking like his head's gonna end up there or something on the stick. Like it's just like,
well, she kind of looked like she wanted to push him off too. It was a
yeah,
weird a moment there. There was a moment there where I thought she got the balls to do it, right?
and he's forcing her to look at her dead father's head on the fucking spike there, and with a bunch of other heads too that they put up there, I guess from conquest or war things that they've done,
To show
and
off, yeah.
yeah, exactly, and and this is all while he's going over his plans to wed and impregnate her, and saying that she'll do as he wishes, and he gets the guard to smack her around for him because he's like, well, I'm not gonna lay a hand. My mother tells me not to lay a hand on a woman, but guard, smack the shit out of her. Essentially, yeah, it's horrible. So she takes a slap to the face like a champ. She looks like she fucking is not like she's got a big red mark, but she's just
I think
looking
she
at
got her lip, everything, yeah.
yeah, she's pissed, and then you get a nice little moment, I think, of the mountain just kind of leaning over her as he walks away because he has no choice in the matter but to follow orders. And he tells her, he's like, just do what he says. It's like, just basically save yourself the trouble, essentially, right? Like he tries
It'll
to,
be easier.
yeah, like you could, he has little moments like this, the mountain. Like he's not necessarily from what we've seen at all. Like he's a big brute and he's a fucking, like a lot of people think of him as a monster, but he's kind-hearted in a way. Like he's just rough around the edges, essentially, right? Because there's been a couple of
Right,
times
rough and
already.
pretty.
Well, yeah, we've seen already a couple of times that he's done thing like he's sided on the side of right instead of wrong in certain situations already, right? Like we've seen him help people in that other episode when he's when they're jousting and stuff like that. But that's kind of also is like it was his brother that he hated, right? But he did help out that kid that was jousting, and he's had a couple of moments where you know what I mean, like he's been an okay person, right? So
Yeah.
I kind of like that he at least he tried. Like he's just like, yeah, just I mean, I can't agree with doing what he says either, but it kind of sucks, right? The situation she's in. She has no choice. So he's just trying to save her fucking the trouble of getting hurt, right? Because he knows that he'll have to execute the orders if he tells him to do something, right? Because he works for the king. So
He has no choice, yeah. Fucking
yeah.
sucks.
Yeah. Then we go back over to Rob and
This is a good scene too. I like
yeah.
this one.
Yeah, Rob talks about how Renly and Baratheon, which is the Baratheon, if you recall, the gay one, I think, that ran off from King's Landing previous to all this shit going down before.
I wonder where he went.
Yeah. He says that he shouldn't be king, being the younger brother to Stannis. And, while he's conversating with all his people, his Northmen there, one of the men stands up and suggests that Rob should be the king of the North. And he wants him to rule on their own outside of like basically their jurisdiction, kind of like what was it, Ottawa or whatever wanted to do. Was it Ottawa or fucking Montreal? Remember when they tried to like separate themselves? Not Ottawa, Quebec, sorry.
Yeah.
From us, like they wanted to be their own fucking like right outside.
That's the best. I was like, what are you going to become, an island in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah,
I used to think like that.
But I get it. For them, it would be like of all North America or whatever. Let's say like all Canada. We were just like all the north of whatever their world is. All I guess the places that border past a certain point, Winterfell and a bunch of the other people that came to their aid. They want to basically be segregated, like basically separated from their like dominion essentially of the king, right? They want Rob, and then you kind of get this crazy scene of everybody kind of chanting, King of the North and all this shit, and they kind of like, and Rob kind of takes to that, right? He's like, oh yeah, all right, let's do this, right? Like he's kind of unsure about it at first, but he kind of goes along with it because all these people believe in him in light of their recent win capturing Jamie and the fact that they all kind of respected Ned, and Ned was taken out by what he claims isn't the rightful heir to the throne. So everyone's like, well, listen, we had this. He says that we had it this way back in the day, or we wanted it this way. So fuck it. Like we think you should be the king to Rob, and we're not gonna bend our knee to this other fucking kid. Like no, there's a lot of people that are already doubters of what's going on in terms of him taking the throne, right? So they heard
Joffrey, yeah.
Joffrey, yeah.
I know this is a hard one. Yeah, like because I mean, who's gonna want to listen to that? I mean, and aren't they like distant cousins too of the Lannisters, or aren't they cousins of some sort, or somehow? Because I know didn't he walk in when Tyrion walks in soon to see Joffrey?
Tyrion is related to Joffrey, yeah.
Yeah, a Lannister.
Cersei's his sister. His
Yeah,
mother is his
yeah.
sister.
Okay. I'm just in my head. I got lost there.
Yeah. Tyrion, Jamie, and Cersei are all.
Oh yeah, siblings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tywin, which you've now met as well, their father, the guy who's in the war tent there.
Yeah, but I think it makes it makes Joffrey the uncle. It makes him the uncle to Joffrey, really, in a sense.
Yes, technically, yeah. I mean, there's like the whole thing about the fact that he's technically also pure Lannister blood, not Baratheon. They say that he's Baratheon blood, but he's not. He's 100% Lannister blood because it's Jamie's kid essentially, right? And Cersei. So
now we know why there's one screw loose.
there you go. But Catelyn Stark there, she then visits her prisoner Jamie and threatens him while he talks shit about, having sex with her and this kind of shit. Like he basically just, is talking shit back to her as he's laying prisoner there.
He's kind of flirting, in a weird, sick way. And, why not? I mean, he's got nothing else to lose.
He also then admits to pushing Bran out of the window finally because she kind of brings it up once again. And he's like, fuck it. Like, I'm prisoner already now. Like, what else? What do I got to lose? So he admits it.
Yeah.
And she says, I hope the fall had killed him.
Oh, yeah,
but he couldn't admit to her why he did it because he wasn't ready to admit that much about the fact that he's fucking his sister. She asks him, she's like, she just like, at this point, she isn't even like, she's like, she knew it was him all along. Like they had their suspicions, but she's like, yeah, you did it. Come on, admit it. And he's like, yeah, I did it. And then she's like, but why? Like, she's just like puzzled as to what did he do to you type of thing. Like, why would you do that? And he was just like, yeah, well, you better go get rested because it's going to be a long war, get some rest. Right. And he just leaves it at that because he's not willing to go there with her at this point. But they now know, like, he's confirmed that he is the reason that their son's a cripple, which is pretty bad. So
she gave him a nice shot too in that scene.
Yeah.
For talking like that to him.
Yeah. Then we cut over to Cersei, who gets word of Jamie being caught by Rob there, and the war with her father and everything that kind of went down there. Now word has traveled back to her in King's Landing, and you see when she gets this letter that she's got a pretty young thing in her bed for entertainment as well at this point. A little boy there. She's got a young man, I guess, that is one of the helpers around there who's in her bed, and she basically tells him to shut up and get back in the bed.
Yeah,
because she has to deal with this news, right? So you got a little young in there now because Jamie's not around, I guess, to to bang her. She's got him now.
She's got to do something, bro. She's got to fill the void. She's a little whore.
Tyrion, then he says that
he walks into them on the table there.
Yeah, so he walks into the war tent with his father there, Tyrion. This is a pretty good scene.
Yeah.
He comes in there and he just starts off by saying, like, they underestimated Robb Stark being green for battle. as they capture Jamie, and that they have less of a chance now for him cooperating because they cut off Ned's head.
Yeah.
And then he talks shit about Joffrey, and basically Tywin kind of gets upset, and he kind of tells everybody else to like leave the tent. After he freaks out about the fact that he's like, oh, they have my son, they have Jamie. He's clearly more affected by the fact that they have Jamie than he was when they had Tyrion. I mean, let's be honest. And they go to say, but they have their daughters, they say, because they know that they had their daughters in King's Landing. But at this point in time, no one's aware, or at least they're not aware that Arya is in the wind. Like, they don't actually know that she's escaped. They know they have Sansa there. But then he asks Tyrion to say, kicks everybody else out. Yeah.
He told them straight up. He said, he was telling them straight up, this is what you got to do. So what the job is.
Well, he actually, for one, says to him, he's like, you were right about everything. He said, everything you were saying in regards to your strategy, your strategizing. He's like, I always thought you were a fool, but you actually did a good job in the sense that, like, everything he said would have been something that like Tywin would have agreed with if he, obviously wasn't driven by the war, essentially, in this situation. He's like, yeah, you were right about all your, he's like, well, he's like, I'm not much for war or everything else. He's like, but I do know my strategizing. Yeah, my strategizing is pretty good, he says, essentially, right? So,
well, you had to learn something, man. That's what he also said too. He's not made for war, right? I mean, being half the guy he is, he's not made for war in those times. I mean, he's better to be the smart one in the room.
Yeah, well, the fact that his father said that he was right, though, I think was a big deal for him, and he wasn't expecting it, right? So
admitting it, right? Like admitting that he was, wrong by doubting him.
And then in response to that, he tells him to go to King's Landing to keep things in order as the hand to the king to help Joffrey and to kind of keep an eye on things. And then
that's kind of funny. When I heard that, I was like, oh shit, this is gonna be interesting.
Right. And then he's like, when he asks why me, he says, because you're my son. He's like, and then basically he ends it with, don't take that whore to the court.
Basically, you're not taking that whore to court.
The woman that he's been begging, he's like, don't take her. So okay, so now this is where we cut over there to the Khaleesi, whose son was essentially stillborn. Basically, didn't survive the pregnancy, and it's interesting because Jay, we see a lot of things that we've already seen happen many times to the children that they attempted to give birth to over and over again in the first season of House of the Dragon.
Well, that first episode of House of Dragon, that was a gruesome scene.
How many failed pregnancies have we seen on that show already? It looks like the Targaryens are not good child bearers, essentially, right? And
they're part lizards, apparently.
Well, that's the thing. The witch woman that's been helping them out there, she basically gets into this whole description about how it was scaled like a lizard, and it was filled with gray worms, and it was fucking disgusting. And Jorah Marmot's there listening to this, and he's just like, let's not get into details. And the witch woman blames it on the life of Khal Drogo that she pushed her into giving him. And she says, listen, you can have life without death. I said it. This is obviously now that we're just seeing the reverberations, like, that basically the consequences of what happened. Be careful what you wish for. A very good Eminem song, as you know. And that's essentially what we see play out here, because Khal Drogo is in a zombie-like state despite being alive. He's fucking brain dead, this guy now, right? So now this is when the Khaleesi there starts blaming the witch woman, something everybody had already kind of warned her about doing business with her, but she was so hell-bent on him surviving the situation. And she says, she knew the dangers. She's like, and then she's like, I saved you. And she's like, saved me? It's like 3 of his men had already raped me by the time you helped me out when they were taking over the village there, the Dothraki, right? She's like, they burned my place. He's like, that was a place of, sacred, like religious kind of thing, or like, and she says that they have like essentially like a bad omen just based on that, the fact that they burned down her place. She's kind of alluding to that kind of shit, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, be careful what you wish for. Like you said, man, that was a bad fucking situation, and it's gotten worse as a result.
For life, you pay for life. That's what she said. No,
right? Yeah, great scene.
Yeah,
Then we got cut over to Castle Black. Sam warns Jon Snow about leaving Castle Black because he's kind of in a bit of a fit of rage as well. He jumps on the horse. He wants to go kill Joffrey for what he's done because we found out Ned has been killed. Mm-hmm. Pushes him out of the way with his horse and runs away. Basically, he kind of says, you're going to be hit with treason. You've sworn an oath. What the fuck are you doing? And he goes off, right? So that was like a quick.
It's weird. It was a quick, but I mean, they're really hardcore. He swore an oath over there too. So once he leaves there, he against their will. I didn't realize that'd be hit with treason too as the same thing, or is it?
I mean, he's sworn an oath to defend the realm at that spot. If they swear him in, he runs away. That is considered that, because it's basically not being responsible for his duties. Right?
Yeah, they think he's gonna go tell somebody about war and all that stuff.
Yeah. So
there's a bad picture here that I don't want. That is gonna give me. I think it's giving me away, giving something away from.
What are you doing?
No, because it's on IMDb. It's in that corner. I don't have my screen closed enough, man. And it's on that little thing on the side, and it's like most shockingly death pictures of thing, right? It's showing somebody that I don't know.
Okay, so stop looking at that. So
it just caught my eye.
No, it's all right. So then we cut back over to Tyrion, and the whore now has a name. Her name's Shay, apparently. He tells, because he says it in this scene, Tyrion tells Shay, or the whore, he can't take her with him, but then goes against his father's orders by the end of the conversation. She convinces him otherwise, right? So,
well, I mean, she honestly seems to kind of have some sort of thing from whether it's the money or not. Maybe he's got a schlong. But
that's apparently not affected with little people, right? I mean, like if
that keeps growing, apparently
you can still have a regular sized penis even though you're a little person. Yeah, exactly. So
wow. How come I'm a regular sized person and I have a little person's penis? Then ask me that one.
Yeah, well, you can't have it all, Jay. John. Then we cut back over to Castle Black. There, John's boys track him down. Sam and the rest of his group of friends there that he has, they basically track him down outside the gates there, and they hold him to the Night's Watch oath. They basically say the Night's Watch oath to him and convince them otherwise to take a step back and come back to Castle Black, right?
Yeah.
Khaleesi tries caring for the brain dead Khal Drogo, and he can't even bang her. Like, it seems like she's making advances almost.
A vegetable, bro.
He's a fucking vegetable. Yeah, she cries for him, and then after realizing that she's fucked up and they're not getting anywhere with this current state of him, is she suffocates him with a pillow and puts him out of his misery essentially in this scene.
Fucking bitch.
Which I think is the right.
Yeah, you're right. It is kind of the right thing. That's kind of like the assisted suicide of back then. You know what I mean? Keep the person comfortable. But back then, instead of killing them, I just smother them. The poor person's a vegetable there. What are they gonna do? Drag him everywhere? His everybody left him. His whole clan left him. They all kept going. They went somewhere else. Right? Yeah. It was only a few people that stayed behind. Right there.
Yeah.
So, fuck. What are you gonna do? And then there goes another character. Ta-da!
Then you
nobody cares that he died. Like, see, nobody goes like I couldn't care less that he died. It was no big deal for me. No. Like, he's a good character for that season.
You can tell though that the Khaleesi is going to be the big character out of that storyline, anyways, already, right? So I mean, like at this point, his days were numbered.
I just hate that name too. I'm not liking that name, Khaleesi.
The Khaleesi.
Yeah.
The Khaleesi. You don't have to call her the Khaleesi. I mean, her name is, you know what I mean? We already know her name, right? So it's,
where is it? Where the hell is it? Oh, Daenerys.
Yeah, Daenerys Targaryen. And then we cut over there to, we get an old man, the Grand Meister, whatever, the guy who basically serves King in King's Landing that we've seen already. He's babbling on and on post coital after he fucked a whore. He's sitting there rambling about all the kings that he served in his time, and he talks about Aerys Targaryen, the Mad King, and all the kings he's seen, and
it's the one that John talked to last episode or whatever when he was feeding the crows.
That's not the same guy.
Different guy.
Different guy. This is the guy that's in King's Landing. That was the guy that was at Castle Black. And listen, I gotta say though, after the young whore there that he bangs leaves the room after he like trails off and forgets what he was fucking talking about, right? He gets up and listen, this old man is spry. He's like, yeah, he's like, he's fucking doing like one of these. He's like,
stretching, cracking, yeah.
Put the cloak on him, like, man, this guy's still got it. He may not have it up here, but he's fucking banging like a champ, like these old girls, and he's a little spry after he has like a spring in his step after he bangs the whore, right? So,
but no, you seen him like he's playing it off well, man. He puts his thing over his head, kind of slouches down a bit, and plays the old man before he walks out the room.
That's right. That's right. But that's what I mean. You get a little moment of him kind of like he seems pretty lively still there, right? So
I was like, what are they doing? Throwing comedy in now? Like, what's going on? Is this like to help with the ease of the pain of poor Ned?
There's some comedy at times in the show. Gotta have some sort of levity to the fucking horrible situations and horrible people that we're always seeing in here.
Yeah.
Then you get a great scene of Lord Varys and Lord Baelish, or aka Littlefinger. They're trading barbs with one another, basically just talking shit to one another as always. Lord Baelish basically talking about how he's castrated and everything else. They always the same type of shit that he always goes on about, right?
He likes talking about his balls, apparently.
All while kind of respecting each other and say how they respect each other, and basically how they're going to continue their scheming and kissing of Joffrey's ass, and Baelish seems to want to be on the throne, and he kind of points that out, and he kind of walks by, and they kind of spring too, right? So then we cut over to Arya with scenes of her trying to adjust to being seen as a boy, dealing with bullies. And she meets an armorer's apprentice and joins a group of travelers that it looks like she's going to be with now moving forward for the current time being, because she's now on the road and she's on the run essentially from King's Landing, right? She's a fugitive. So she
tells her to go piss in the woods. Everybody tells her to go piss in the woods just so nobody knows, man.
She's a boy now, right? She's looked at as a boy. So, and she got that sword with her still. So yeah, we get to see Arya's journey, man. And I'll tell you this isn't a huge spoiler, but Arya's a badass, man. This kid's got kahunas, this Arya, because you got to remember, she was the one that always wanted to be the sword fighter and everything else out of them, right? Sansa's the one that wanted to be a queen, right? So I think in that sense, they're kind of, they're not neither of them are in great situations, but they're both very different people, right? So I think that's what I much prefer Arya to Sansa, because I think that she's now a victim, and Arya is like, you know what I mean? Like Arya is out on her own.
Yeah, Arya's not gonna take anybody's bullshit. She's not gonna take no Joffrey bullshit or anything like that. I feel like she's a badass kid.
Yeah. Then John's superior there at Castle Black that he reports to, warns him how important their duty is despite everything going on with his father, because I guess he heard word of him trying to run away. And tomorrow, he says, they are going beyond the wall in search of his uncle Benjen. So they are venturing now out, a group of them, beyond the wall, which we haven't actually really seen from his perspective as of yet. We've only seen those couple people come back as zombies and shit at this earlier in the season from beyond the wall. So it looks like the place that he's going in season 2 is now beyond the wall with some of his people from Castle Black. So that should be
taking his wolf with him.
Yeah, that should be interesting. His direwolf. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you gotta come back over to Daenerys, who takes the dragon eggs and surrounds Khal Drogo there, with him on his deathbed there with the eggs, and lights them on fire. This is the final scene of the show here, okay, guys? So,
who would have thought this, guys? Just listen to Nikos explain this, but who would have thought?
Jorah Mormont, walks over her and warns her. He would serve her, but he's afraid that she will burn if she's doing what he thinks that she's doing in the situation. And he says, "Sell the eggs, and we'll flee from here. There's nothing for you anymore." Like, he's been kind of telling her this time and time again. When he thought Khal Drogo was gonna die, he's like, "Let's get the fuck out of here. These savages, the Dothraki. This is a lost situation that we're in right now, right?" So then, she kind of still proceeds to do what she wants. She turns around and says, like, the village, she's basically liberated them. Like, you're all free now. You're considered free people. I'm liberating this group, this village that we took over. Like, you're not a prisoner to us anymore. He then tells Jorah to take the witch woman, the sorceress, and tie her to the pyre of where the fire is about to burn. And she says to
Crazy.
her, she's like, you can do that to me, but she's like, you're not gonna hear me scream. But she does. She
Trust me,
fucking
bro. Yeah, I don't care who you are. You're on fire. You're gonna scream.
it's funny because at first she tries to put out a brave face. You hear her doing the chant. She's like,
Yeah, and then it just turns to a deadly scream. Yeah.
she like the next moment you see her just fucking out. Yeah, I'm like, you're screaming, bitch.
Oh man, that was too
And
much.
so she gets her revenge in that sense from that woman. But I don't know how I'd feel about roasting a woman like that, because you would be afraid that she put a curse on you or some shit, right? I think, right? This is a world now where we're starting to believe that there's magic out there, guys. So there's a little bit of magic going on there, and as you see at this
Cut
last
the
scene,
horses'
there's
heads.
also something else. And Daenerys walks through the flames at
She
the
takes
end
balls, man. I was like, "What the fuck's this broad doing?" I didn't know what was going on.
as that woman goes up on fire, as her husband there goes up on fire. The dragon eggs are laid there with him.
Yeah,
At the end, everything is extinguished, and you see Jorah Mormont walking through the wreckage, and she's sitting there naked in the wreckage.
yeah.
This, and then she
Finally,
reveals
it's
the
naked again.
dragon that has emerged from the egg, and all of a sudden everyone that like was there that witnessed this crazy experience, right, starts bowing to the Khaleesi, to the mother of the dragons. And dragons are back. They exist, everybody, at the
Well,
end of
there's
it.
three of them, right?
Yeah. Well, you only see the one with her on her shoulder in this
Well,
scene,
you
though,
see the other
right?
two move because you know
Yeah.
that they had the other two eggs, right?
But the dragon was birthed from the egg, guys. The people bow down to her. She has survived
The
being in the
fire.
fire, being consumed by the flame, and hence the Khaleesi, the mother of dragons. She is now going to be starting her journey as the rightful heir to the throne, and she already has a following that now, after witnessing this like
Yes, yeah.
miracle, essentially this moment, they all kind of start falling in line at the end of the episode, and the
Oh, yeah.
episode just ends there. And like Jay said, that's kind of kept him going because he's been a huge fan of everything he's seen with the dragons and everything else on House of Dragon in a time where they did exist. And
Yeah.
she's now the remaining kind of member of the Targaryens, and yeah, they call her mother of the dragons, essentially, from here forward. So she has just changed the playing field now for her
It's crazy.
right to
Yeah.
the throne. She's got a fucking dragon, and no one else believes in them right now. So she's got a ace in the hole right now. She's got a interesting card up her sleeve here, right? So we'll see what happens.
I feel like, I mean, first of all, who would have thought? Just put the dragon eggs in a fire. Maybe that'll work because they need to be heated up. They blow fire, right? I'm thinking in my head. But after I seen that scene, but to be honest with you, I feel like now because she's that I feel like she's gonna be popular off of this part now. Um, I feel like that's probably the last time I'm gonna see her full frontal like that, eh?
Yeah, probably.
Pretty much, eh?
Like I told you, from moving forward, when she becomes a big character, she stops getting naked. Now, there might be something in season 2 that I can't remember,
Yeah,
but
Lewis told me to keep my eyes open just so and some that's what he said. He wouldn't get into it. He said the wife is rewatching it again and he's gonna start because I told him he's got to start rewatching it again.
oh, good. We'll have to
So
have them on
she's
then.
yeah, she's rewatching it on purpose again. I think because we might be doing this. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, we'll have to talk with them because I would love to get them on different episodes.
They threw that at him yesterday. So
Perfect. So Jay, what'd you think of season 1 of Game of Thrones with this ending? I know you were a big fan of all the dragon shit, at least. And now
well, yeah, that saved me. That saved me to watch it, to keep watching. I think that'll let me go a little further. It'll bring me a little bit into season 2 to see what happens, right? But yeah, it was a roller coaster of emotions in that one. You know what I mean? You get to find out that Ned's dead, and then all that, and then you learn a lot about what's going to be happening from here on out, and where they're going to kind of go from here. Hopefully, you're going to get different parts in different seasons now that we will moving forward. That we're going to see where it branches off to and how it branches off a little better. But they kind of set like the groundwork, like the foundation of the plot and the storyline, and it's gonna. I feel like it'd be nice to see which direction each of them go in or where they end up from where they are now, right? Like I see that these the Lannisters are all mighty powerful and all that. What happens with them?
Yeah.
I can't wait. I'm kind of stuck in it, so I'll be watching it straight through. Right, I'll be
Yeah.
uh, I'll be moving forward with this. I'll tell you because
And
it kind of caught my attention. I probably should have watched it years ago, but it's probably better to redo it like
it's
this.
okay, man. This is the time. So, like I said, by the time we're done this, hopefully, we'll be that much closer to new season of House of the Dragon, and you'll be fully invested even more so going into it,
Yeah,
right? And you're gonna actually start making the connections about the families and everything else, right? Looking into that one. So I think yeah, and we hope you guys continue the journey with us as well. We'll still continue to try to put these out weekly for you guys. And I think there's been a lot of support in terms of the views that have already come forward from putting these out, and a lot of interest from people that we know that have watched the show as well too, and are taking this opportunity maybe to rewatch some of their favorite episodes and join us. So yeah, it's still a show I think that is still fondly remembered of, and obviously, I mean, like they're still actively putting out products and shows for this property, and it's still something I think that we could see. I could see continuing years from now, because
yes,
I think they can continue doing spinoffs outside of House of the Dragon, because I the way they're time jumping in that first season, they might. I mean, I don't know if they've spoken about this. They might only do like one more season or two more seasons. I know I heard something them saying, well, it would take quite a bit more time to tell the story that they have planned. But I mean, they're fucking jumping. They jumped a lot of years in that first season already with these characters, and I think in House of the
one
Dragon,
episode was like 15. Remember?
yeah, well, half the season was her as a kid, and then the next one she's an adult, and then she's an old adult by the end of the thing, or middle aged, I guess, let's say. And so I don't know, like, and the only thing I didn't love about that is, I mean, it's good that they're not like they're committing to telling the story and time jump if they have to. It's just it was kind of, I really was liking the younger version character of her, that actress, and then they had to abruptly change her in the next episode, right? So like I kind of like how they committed to doing that, but also it sucks because I think if you're gonna continue changing up the actors that way to kind of like, at least it's not like they're trying to make somebody who's young look like they're old, or vice versa, like they do so many times in these shows, and you're like, this kid's playing a fucking teenager, but he's in his 30s. You know what I mean? Like do this kind of shit and stuff.
Yeah,
Like Stranger Things now, they're outgrowing their characters, the
characters.
age. And that's why it's important that they got to try to film so much of this stuff back to back to back, because like eventually you're going to get to a point in your story where like your characters outgrow like literally in life, right? They're like, yeah, we can't have them playing. That's happening now with those Stranger
Well,
Things.
those guys, I mean, at that age, they change drastically. Anybody
Right.
change between the ages of
Growth
10
spurts,
to
everything
16.
else, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So I think I mean, it's good that they kind of committed to changing the actors, I think, on that show, like they have with the time jumps. But it just sucks because I really liked the person that was playing her at a younger age, and then halfway through the season they just changed it up on us, right? So like I'm interested to see what they do now moving forward. I love the guy who played the king on that, like their father. Again, he reminded me in the sense because he was literally on his deathbed. I know we're talking about House of Dragon now, guys, but if you guys, I hope you've seen it, if not spoilers, but on his deathbed, he all he wanted throughout that whole season was like his family to get along with one another, and they wouldn't give it to him. And he reminded me of Ned in that sense. Like he was trying to be a good king, like he was trying to be a good king to everybody and prevent war, and he just wanted people to get along, right? He was fair. And then again, same thing. It's kind of almost the same formula. At the end of season one, he dies,
and
and
one character, yeah, that
right.
kind of seems normal.
And then what happens? Everything fucking spirals out at the end of the season, where you're like, they're all fucking going to go to war this season, right? So like, it's almost the same thing we've seen already play out at the start in this first season of Game of Thrones, sort of similar to House of the Dragon as well. And everyone knows that history tends to repeat itself if people don't learn from their mistakes. So I think it's
That's
interesting.
a good one. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
It's very true, right? I mean,
Yeah.
everything. It's so. I think that's kind of what we're seeing. In House of the Dragon as well now. After seeing season 1 of Game of Thrones. So that's why I've been enjoying rewatching these, Jay, and also talking about with you, because again, I've never rewatched this show at all. So it's kind of interesting even to see it from this perspective now after having seen this other season of the spinoff show, and which is a prelude to this. Like, it's actually before the events, like hundreds of years before the events of Game of Thrones, right? So I think it's interesting in that sense.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of cool to see.
Right. So, anyways, so here you go, guys. Season 1 of Game of Thrones, Fire and Blood. And yeah, next week you'll be able to catch us talking about season 2, episode 1. Is it the North Remembers, or
Yeah,
Remember the
that's
North?
the
Is
one.
that what it's called?
The North remembers.
Yeah. And that's going to be season 2, episode 1 of that. And yeah, we're just going to keep chugging along. Like I said, we'd like to line up some guests and this kind of thing. So we'll try to get that in the works for you guys soon too. So Jay, yeah, so you're in now. You're
I'm in. I'm in. You'll see me for the next one, guys. Don't worry.
Unless something enrages Jay even more and he ends up stopping watching it. But I don't think it's gonna happen. They're gonna hook you for some more interesting things moving forward, guys. So. All right, so I guess that'll do it for this episode, guys. We'll see you next week. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit that like button. Hit us up in the comments if you have any thoughts on the on this episode or the season in general. Try to stay away from spoilers for Jay's sake and for mine, for that matter, because I don't remember a lot of things because I'm rewatching it for the first time and it's been years, and Jay's never seen it before, guys. So in your conversations with them, try to not spoil stuff for the guys.
Try to steer me the other way.
Exactly. So, all right, guys. Thanks, Jay.
Peace.
Later.